Cliff Richard speaks out at last about Elvis Presley. Cliff Richard was born Harry Roger Webb on October 14, 1940 in Lucknow, British India. Cliff Richard's early life was marked by complicated historical events. Born in British colonial India, his parents returned to England in 1948 following Indian independence. The family settled in the small town of Cheshunt in Hertfordshire and lived in conditions of struggle, and Cliff had humble beginnings. But even at this early stage, young Harry Webb showed a keen passion for performance and music. He was particularly inspired by such American rock and roll heroes as Elvis Presley, Little Richard, and Buddy Holly. These influences would later drive him on to become the UK's own response to the US rock invasion. In 1958, taking the stage name Cliff Richard to instill the image of strength, a cliff, and respect for Little Richard, he exploded onto the UK music scene with his group, The Drifters, later renamed The Shadows. Their first single, Move It, is commonly regarded as being the very first genuine British rock and roll record. It was at number 2 in the UK singles chart and immediately declared the arrival of a fresh sound. Cliff's dark good looks, youthful vigor, and guitar-based style and music made him the pin-up of teenage rebellion for more conventional post-war Britain. He was Britain's first rock star, a role he would retain and develop as he grew musically and as an individual. During the 1960s, Cliff Richard had a series of hit records like Living Doll, The Young Ones, Summer Holiday, and Bachelor Boy, which all became classics. He also acted in a number of musical comedies that were loved by audiences and cemented his status as a family name. Even with the coming of the Beatles and the British invasion, which he himself had facilitated, Cliff Richard continued to be pertinent and popular. Instead of being washed away by shifting musical currents, Cliff adapted. During the 1970s, he transitioned from teen idol to adult performer with more mature and introspective songs. Songs such as Devil Woman, We Don't Talk Anymore, and Wired for Sound demonstrated that he was prepared to experiment and change style to incorporate disco and synth-pop styles. His capacity to reinvent himself while maintaining his idiosyncratic voice and charm enabled him to sustain success across generations. A highly religious man, Cliff Richard converted to Christianity in the mid-1960s and remained a devout Christian ever since. His religion became an integral part of his identity, and it affected his way of life as well as his creative works. He frequently recorded religious songs and was respected for never compromising his religion in the morally gray world of show business. He stepped away from the reckless party lifestyle and embraced a wholesome image instead. His 1979 Christmas release, Mary's Boy Child, Oh My Lord with Boney M, and other spirituality-based songs demonstrate his dedication to his values. His choice to remain unmarried and childless also hit the headlines, although he never answered questions about his personal life with anything less than grace, dignity, and discretion. Cliff Richard has always said that he felt called to an independent life of service, and many fans have admired him for living his own life. Apart from being successful in Britain, Cliff Richard also enjoyed worldwide recognition with loyal fan bases in nations like Australia, South Africa, and Europe. He has sold over 250 million records globally, making him one of the best-selling music artists of all time. His discography is unparalleled in the UK charts. He is the sole artist to have achieved #1 singles in 5 decades in succession from the 1950s through the 1990s. His contribution to British society was officially recognized when he was Ned in 1995, being the first rock star to be so honored. He was also given the Order of the British Empire, OBB, in 1980. These are not awards for his music alone, but also for his commitment to charitable work and philanthropy and for supporting causes as varied as HIV/AIDS awareness and children's welfare. Even with his years of celebrity and public favor, Cliff Richard had to endure perhaps his toughest time in 2014 when unsubstantiated accusations of sexual impropriety were made. The allegations prompted a much-publicized police inquiry and media storm that created huge personal distress. In 2016, the Crown Prosecution Service released a statement to say there was not enough evidence to pursue, and Richard was completely cleared. Instead of withdrawing from public life, Cliff bounced back. He emerged victorious in a high-profile privacy case against the BBC over the coverage of the investigation and became a fixture on television as an outspoken champion of press accountability and the rights of those under investigation. His dignity and strength in adversity only helped to fuel the admiration of his supporters and colleagues. Cliff Richard remains active and producing music even into his 80s, with a strong voice and stage presence that belie the years. He has never formally retired, and his 2020 album Music, The Air That I Breathe, demonstrated his ongoing relevancy, going to number 5 in the UK. His yearly Christmas offerings remain eagerly awaited, and his tours continue to draw popular interest from longtime fans and new ones. Cliff Richard's private life has always been of silent interest to both fans and media because of the profound personal compromises that he made in pursuing and maintaining his show business career. One of the most deeply impacting incidents in his young adult years was the death of his father, Roger Webb, at the age of 56 in 1961. Cliff was just 21 at the time, just starting to rise to the summits of musical fame. The untimely death of his father greatly impacted him. In subsequent years, Richard lamented wistfully that his father passed away very young and had unfortunately missed seeing the most successful and ballyhooed phases of his son's brilliant career. Cliff remembered in his illness that their relationship had become particularly close, uncovering an unusual emotional sensitivity behind the sleek public facade of the boy sensation. His father's death not only created an emptiness in his own life, but also silently burdened Cliff as he started to assume responsibility for the welfare of his mother and his sisters, a financial and emotional burden which would shape many of his subsequent choices, including loved ones. His mother, Dorothy Webb, would go on to live a long life, but struggled herself in later years. She died in October 2007, aged 87, after suffering from Alzheimer's disease for 10 years. The experience of seeing his loving mother gradually waste away over 10 years was unbelievably tragic for Cliff and his family. In an honest 2006 interview, he spoke candidly about how emotionally exhausting it had been to live with her condition, emphasizing the heartache and stress he and his sisters experienced as they nursed her. The gradual loss of her memory and identity was a brutal reminder of the vulnerability of life and again positioned Cliff as family caretaker, a position he embraced with love. Through all his years, Cliff Richard has been a lifetime bachelor, a matter of personal choice influenced at once by emotional attachments to family and the pressures of public life. One of the first glimpses into this inner struggle was in the shape of a tender 3-page letter written by him in October 1961 to his first serious girlfriend, an Australian-born dancer named Dilea Wixes. The couple were together about 18 months, and Wix had expected their romance to result in marriage. Cliff, poised to become a global star, made the agonizing decision to terminate the relationship. In the letter, published only in April 2010 after Wix's cancer death, Cliff detailed his motives in heart-wrenchingly candid terms. As a pop star, I must forego one precious thing, the right to any permanent relationship with any special girl. He admitted that he had to make what he referred to as most likely one of the biggest decisions I'm ever going to make, and admitted the emotional effect it could have on her. He also said how much his mother and sisters relied on him after his death, stressing that he could not leave them or his burgeoning career. I have showbiz in my blood now, and I would be lost without it, he penned, telling her to seek out someone who would love her as he did not feel he could. The epistle encapsulated the psychological cost of fame and how it tended to be paid at the price of individual well-being. Following her death in 2010, age 71, her brother Graham Wixes outlined how the split had ruined Dilea and called Cliff a very nice man, implying there were no ill feelings, but instead, lingering sadness. A year after his split from Wix, Richard was briefly involved in a romance with English actress Una Stubbs, who was noted for her vivacity and charm. Although short-lived, the affair suggested Cliff's continued difficulty in securing long-term companionship during his growing stardom. Towards the latter half of the 1960s, he was romantically associated with dancer Jackie Irving, who he portrayed as absolutely beautiful. For a while, the two were said to be inseparable, and it could be inferred that Cliff had given serious thought to establishing a life together with her. But the affair came to an end, and Irving married British pop star Adam Faith. For the second time, a life companion escaped Cliff as he pursued his musical devotion. The